Hi, I'm Kathy. I wanted to show you how to do a small Trompe drawing. These are inspired by these fabulous murals in Lyon, France. And even though they're wonderful, they're ginormous murals, and we're going to do little drawings because we can't always start with ginormous murals. We've got to start small and work our way up. We're also starting with things that are very familiar, like pencils. Now, I have a bunch of student work available for you to see for your own inspiration for something small. It's at Glacier Peak High School Art on Facebook. Go to Photos and Albums and scroll all the way down to find, I have a couple different folders that have these examples in them. Now, I'm just going to trace around an object. That's always the first step. I'm using pencils because they're really easy, they're familiar, and I think that's something that will work to try to make realistic. Also, brushes are amazing. I love doing brushes because they have the contrast of the different textures. Now, I can't find my brush. Where did it go? It must have fallen, maybe? You have the shiny part of the metal, and then you have the texture of the bristles, and then you also have a different kind of shiny stuff with the painted wood. I want to talk about the ferrule first. This is the part that connects the bristles with the wood. If you look closely, you see that there is a strong jump between a light and a dark. Not a lot of transition area. More of a transition area when you're looking at the bristle and the painted wood. But it's nice to have those variances of texture. So that's why I like to include a brush in many of these. Regardless though, after you trace your object, you need to use white as your base. Because my brush has more contrast on it, I left some of the black showing, especially with the metal. With the pencil, probably not so much. I'm going to color it all in with white. I want to pay attention to the point and where the highlight is. My light source is on the upper left corner, so my highlight for this pencil is going to be on the left-hand side. It's probably going to have more than one highlight because even if you have a dominant light source, light bounces off of other objects and off of different surfaces. So you also want to keep that in mind, and that'll make your object look more interesting anyway. So I have my white base going on, and I'm going to layer it with a color. I just grabbed pink. It's good to have a color that's not too dark, but also a color that will show a white highlight. So the pink is probably going to be okay for that. Go right up to the edge, and it looks like I may need to sharpen it. We'll see. And then I have my wood color that I want to have show up. And I'm going to actually add this to the other ones too. Sometimes I do that. I start working in one area and then I continue working with other areas, and then eventually I'm done. So I have my highlight. I went over it with a color. I go back and forth with the highlight again. So that part is pretty consistent when it comes to working this process. It's layering the highlight with the color to get a nice full range of value and a range of color. Now I'm going to add my cast shadow that is opposite the light source. The highlight's going to be on the left, so the shadow, as with this one is a little bit down because of the angle of the light. So my shadow is going to be over here. I haven't gotten a shadow on that little guy yet. These are all kind of in different stages. So I have a little bumpy thing here. Sometimes I can fix those with my shadow. Sometimes I have to fix them with a ruler, and I'll show you that in a minute, or a It's hard for me to draw and talk at the same time. Or an eraser. So here's my ruler, and I think I'll use the eraser in a minute. I'm going to use the ruler to provide an edge that has a bit of a highlight. Even if I wanted to paint pink over this, I kind of need something to get started with. I'm going to move this out from underneath. That brings up another thing too. It's nice to have some padding underneath of where you're drawing. It will help your coloring to be a little bit less scribbly. So there's my pink. Now it looks, you know what? I'm going to use my ruler again and get a black line. I'm using the ruler that has the metal on the edge. Let's see if I can clean that up. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so you get an idea of where the highlight is. The eraser is really nice when you need to get a little bit more of the black showing up. So I can take away some of the pigment when I want to have a little more gradation. And then sometimes what I have to do is take away some of the pigment, like this blue, so that I can add some white over the top of it, which is what I'm going to do right now. When you work so hard to get your layering, sometimes your paper just gets so tired and it says, all right, no more. I quit. I'm not going to have any more pigment on me. And then that's when you either scratch it with your fingernail or you get your eraser out and create a little bit of a texture so that it'll hold some more pigment. So those steps, tracing with the white, layering in with the white after you've traced it, and then going back and forth with the highlight and the colors, and adding a cast shadow, can be repeated over and over to get a variety of different trompe l'oeil drawings. One of the things I did was I took a hammer and nails, traced around the hammer, added some nails, this is a tape measure, and used that as a starting point for my theme. So you can choose different themes. It could be the theme of art supplies, this is the theme of the handyman type stuff, and then use the objects to create a focal point, which is usually around a third from a corner. So a focal point will usually be around here, or here, or here, or here. It's called the rule of thirds. So that's one approach with objects. The other thing you can do is to find other things around that might be fun to deal with. These are whisks. I like them because they're shiny. And you, depending upon what you choose, you can tell a story with it. Oh, well, I lost a whisk. That's my story, huh? Now, the tea strainer could be a problem. It's really cool. I really like it, but I don't know how in the heck to do that texture. So I'm going to save the tea strainer for later, maybe practice it, figure out what I'm going to do with it, and use something else in there. Now, here's something, but you know, I love the shape, but I do not like that texture. It doesn't go with my other shiny stuff. So I'll have to think about what I want to do with collecting objects with that theme. You might just want to choose something fun. I think this would be great fun because you have a variety of textures, you have stuff that looks fun. You know, who wouldn't want to do a Groucho Marx mask? So you have your textures, you have a little blowy thing. This is fabulous because you not only have the strong lights and strong darks of the metal, sometimes it can reflect color onto your surface, and you have your cast shadow. Now if you only have one of something, that's okay because you could lay it down, trace it, and color it in, and then repeat it. Or if you have more than one, go ahead and use them. But you don't have to have a lot of objects to fill up your picture plane. And you can also take the same object and try it in different orientations. So there is just a ton of stuff you can do with this idea. And because you break it down into simple steps, you can start really basic with something very familiar and then keep trying new things and really push yourself. I hope you have fun with this. Bye-bye.